the dry season. The summer of 1960 arrived like a fever that would not break, the heat pressing down on the Ozark Hills until the pastures went the color of old bone. Earl and Dessie Whitfield lived on their 40 acres near Check's Corner, the way two trees might grow from a single root, bent toward each other by circumstance and years, though the drought that July seemed intent on splitting them apart at the trunk. The farm sat back off the gravel road, folded into hills that rolled like something breathing in its sleep, and the barn door creaked each morning with the sound of a hinge that had given up complaining and simply resigned itself to pain. Earl's father had come down from Creede, Colorado in 1911, hauling his life behind a wagon and a rifle, his young wife pale and silent beside him like a figure cut from paper. Dessie's parents had followed a year later, chasing the same rumor of good land and better water. The two families settled less than a mile apart, and their children grew toward each other the way certain plants will, roots tangling underground long before anyone above the surface notices. Now, 30 years married, Earl and Dessie stood in a house that felt less like shelter and more like a shell some larger creature had abandoned, its walls thin as skin stretched too tight. The drought had reduced Butler Creek to something barely alive, a vein gone thin and dark under skin. It ran, when it ran at all, from Sulphur Springs down through Arkansas into Noel, but that July it moved the color of rust and old blood between banks cracked into 1,000 small mouths, each one open and dry and asking for something no one could give. The creek sat a mile from the farmhouse, past the Colby fence line, through a stretch of blackjack oak that offered shade like a lie offers comfort, thin and temporary. Earl walked there most evenings anyway, his shadow stretched long and thin across the parched grass, a man checking on a wound that would not close. Dessie kept the house in the manner of a woman keeping a body laid out for viewing, tending small things because the large things had already gone beyond her reach. 2 rooms and a lean-to kitchen, a stove that turned the summer air into something thick enough to chew, a porch where she sat some evenings, watching fireflies rise out of the grass like sparks off a fire no one could see. She had lost a daughter in 1952, born still and cold in the middle of an ice storm, and she had folded that grief the way she folded the small bonnet she kept in her dresser drawer, small and neat, and never spoken of, a paper crane made of sorrow. The doctor in Noel told her there would be no more children, and she took this news the way she took the drought, as another mouth added to the dry earth she was already trying to feed. Money thinned that summer, the way flesh thins on a starving animal, visible in the ribs of every decision they made. The milk truck came every other day instead of daily, and even then, the price offered felt like an insult wrapped in a paycheck. Earl worked odd hours down at Aubrey Johnson's place, the state line station that straddled the border like a scar between two countries, stacking liquor cases and sweeping the concrete apron for a few dollars, and sometimes a dented can of beans that had rolled off the delivery truck like a small mercy. It was not enough. It was never going to be enough. And both of them had begun to sense the shape of that truth, the way a person senses a tumor before any doctor confirms it, a hard knot beneath the surface of ordinary days. The last Friday of July broke past 100 degrees before noon, the sky white and merciless as a hospital ceiling. Earl told Dessie he meant to walk to the creek and check the fence line where the cows had been pressing for whatever water remained. She went with him, glad of the silence between them being shared rather than endured alone, and the two of them crossed the dry garden, the fence their fathers had strung with wire and sweat, the blackjack woods where the leaves hung still as objects in a painting. When they came out of the trees, 2 cows lay collapsed in the mud near the last, shrinking pool, flies already stitching themselves to the wet corners of their eyes. Earl waded in, and the mud closed around his boots with a suction that seemed almost deliberate. a mouth remembering how to close on something living. Desi called to him from the bank, her voice thin and high against the heat, and he waved her back the way a man waves back a fear he does not want named aloud. He got the rope looped beneath the nearest cow. But the effort, stacked atop a week of bad sleep and worse meals, reached into his chest and found the weak seam there, the place where a heart, like any other tired machine, simply stops. He went down into the mud beside the animal he had tried to save, and Desi's scream tore across water too shallow to drown a child, though depth had nothing to do with what claimed him. His heart closed like a fist and did not open again. She ran to him and held his head above the mud, though there was no longer any need. The sun sliding down behind the hills with the same indifference it showed every evening, the whippoorwills starting their call in the timber as if nothing below them had changed. She sat with him until dark swallowed the field whole. It was near midnight when Ronnie Colby, out searching for a strayed calf, found her still there, a pale shape fixed beside a darker one, and helped her back toward a house that no longer felt like it belonged to her. Word went down to the state line station, and Aubrey Johnson placed the call to Pineville, his voice low against the buzz of the beer coolers, the neon sign outside humming on into a night that did not care. They buried Earl on the 1st of August in the Lee Cemetery. The ground was as hard and dry as the pastures that had taken him, the earth refusing him even the small kindness of giving way easily to the shovel. Desi stood at the grave in her mother's black dress, dry-eyed, something inside her gone quiet in the permanent way a light goes out, not flickering, simply absent. The bank took the farm that October, unmoved by any of it, and she left Check's corner with one trunk, the small bonnet folded inside among what little else remained of 30 years. In the distance, Butler Creek kept moving that fall, low and the colour of weak tea, past the blackjack woods and the fence no one mended, indifferent as it always had been to what the land around it lost. The rains came eventually, too late, greening the hills again into something that almost looked like forgiveness, though there was no one left on those 40 acres to receive it.